Welcome to TV Cogeco's Plugged In. I'm Tina Wells on location at Cooper's Hawk Vineyards, here with a couple I haven't seen in a while, Glen and Sue Bacarro. The last time we saw each other, we were all involved with Dancing with the Local Stars, and I knew you had a story to tell then. However, we never really had a chance to talk about it.
Thank you.
Let's begin. You had a harrowing car accident. Tell us what happened.
Well, to make a very long story short, we had gone to pick up a friend in Detroit, Michigan at the airport, and on our way home I spun out on some black ice and ended up in front of a semi-truck. He hit us broadside. My buddy Kenny ended up with a massive bruise where the seatbelt had held him in. Suzanne had a bruised tailbone but managed to walk away. Both of them managed to walk out of it. I, on the other hand, had 12 broken ribs, spinal fractures, a collapsed lung, a broken pelvis, lacerations to my kidney, liver, and spleen, a broken nose, and a massive concussion with blood running freely through the brain, as well as an aortic dissection. So the fact that I'm not dead, I'm not in a coma, I'm not crippled, and I'm sitting here telling you the story, I don't understand it, but here I am.
Yeah, there's a greater purpose. So you were medically induced into a coma for a couple of weeks. What was your reaction when you woke up?
Yeah, it took me 2 weeks to wake up. I remember looking at Susanna and asking her what had happened, and she said, well, we were in a car accident. I said, really? And she goes, yeah, 2 weeks ago. I was like, wow. I was stunned to realize that I'd lost 2 weeks of my life just lying in a bed. That was quite a shock for me.
And then, Sue, you remember everything. Tell us what you remember.
That's right. Well, during the accident itself, and it was probably the most peaceful moment of my life, which is ironic enough. Everything went quiet, just like in the movies, and I saw the grill of the truck coming to us, and it just went quiet. And I remember I was chewing on broken glass, and when everything stopped and came to, we had lots of help. We were fortunate enough, we had two nurses that stopped. They were on their way to work, and they stopped and they helped us get sorted out, get to the hospital. Glen was first at Oakwood Hospital, and he ended up at University of Michigan because of his injuries. They were so severe. And that day was a really rough day because they did want to airlift him from Oakwood, but there was so much ice and snow that the choppers couldn't fly, so we actually had to drive. So it was a long, slow journey to the hospital. And then, like you said, Tina, he was induced for 2 weeks because of his injuries. And so that was tough. It was about a total of 3 weeks in the hospital, and I lived at the hospital during that time while I was attending university full-time.
I can't imagine. When we return, we'll talk with the Bacarros about how they turned their horrific experience into an empowering one. Welcome back to TV Cogeco's Plugged In. I'm Tina Wells here with Glen and Sue Bacarro, who are sharing their fascinating story from surviving a horrific car accident to the GLEN Project. What is the GLEN Project?
Well, it's basically an acronym for my name, and it stands for Give, Live, and Empower Now. And we took the whole experience of what we had gone through and basically developed an empowering program. I like to focus at-risk youth. I have a very interesting life story, and I think the accident really caps it off and puts a very impactful statement on the whole thing due to the fact that I survived the whole ordeal. So now I do presentations for at-risk youth, talking about giving of your life, living life to the fullest, empowering yourself with the choices that you make, and doing everything with the urgency that is now, because you never know when that semi-truck can come around the corner and everything for you. So.
Now, why did you choose to work together?
Well, we've always worked really well together. We bounce ideas off of each other very well, and I like to give him feedback, and I'm kind of an ideas person, so I'll bounce my ideas off of him and help him even with some of his speeches and things like that. But
she has great suggestions. She's the only one that lets me rant and get everything off my chest. Then she'll look at me and go, why don't you put that in your presentation? That'd be great.
Yeah, we challenge each other too. Like when I see how hard he works at what he's doing, it challenges me in my own life to kind of put my best foot forward every day, right? So we really bounce off of each other very well in that way.
Excellent.
It's chemistry.
Now, with the GLEN Project, what would you say is one awesome outcome you've seen happen?
I had a 14-year-old boy approach me afterwards after one of my presentations, and the only word that I can describe the way this kid was looking at me was awe. He stood there with his eyes wide open, his mouth was kind of like that. And I kind of turned and looked and I said, how you doing? He said, fine. And I said, can I help you? And he just looked at me and said, I want to be able to be a speaker like you someday. And that just really was impactful for me, and it kind of validated everything that I'd ever gone through in my life to get that statement from this young boy, and to think that maybe when he's in his mid-20s and he's out somewhere doing a public speaking presentation and inspiring people to like want to change their lives and make great choices, nobody will know that that can be, you know, kind of like mapped all the way back to the presentation that he saw me present. And I like to think of that. And I know it's kind of selfish motivation, but one of my goals is to be sitting somewhere in my late 80s and have somebody come up to me and say, you know what, I saw you speak when I was a teenager and it changed my life. And to me, that would just make everything all worth it. The 2 weeks,
Full circle.
The 2 weeks it took me to wake up, and then the 5 months it took me to recover from this accident made the whole thing worth it.
When we return, Glenn will tell us about where he speaks and how you can have him speak for your organization. Stay tuned right here on TV Cogeco's Plugged In at Cooper's Hawk Vineyard. I'm Tina Wells.
Please welcome Glen Bacarro.
I would introduce myself. Hey, how you doing? You know, my name's Glenn. 2 seconds later, it'd be like, hey, Gary, how's it going? Or they'd call me Jerry, or they'd say Gord. Do I look like a gourd? Glenn, to me, always sounded like a name that you would give an old Scottish white dude. In case you haven't noticed, I'm brown and Filipino looking. My mother would look at me sometimes and she'd yell out, Glenn, if you don't behave yourself, I'm gonna kick your... I'm gonna let you fill in that last word. And then she would say things like, if you don't eat your spinach, young man, I'm gonna wring your neck. We don't have to treat people the way that our parents treated us. It took me a long time to understand that. All of a sudden, the back end of my blazer starts to fishtail, and I hit a patch of black ice and spin right out in front of a semi-truck. I know what it feels like to be all alone. I know what it feels like to be angry at the world. I know what it feels like to lose.
We're plugged back in on TV Cogeco's Plugged In, live from Cooper's Hawk Video.
Can you explain what that is, Tina? Can you just...
That in the background is a bomb. You explained it better.
It's a cannon that they use to scare off the birds that are eating the grapes, so it goes off periodically.
Bomb cannon, yeah, so it scares us too. Welcome back to TV Cogeco's Plugged In. I'm Tina Wells here with Glen and Sue Bacarro, and we are on location at Cooper's Hawk Vineyard talking about the inspirational story of Glen and Sue's experience with a horrific car accident and then going into the GLEN Project. What does the future hold for the GLEN Project?
Well, I've been doing presentations at schools and for different organizations. I actually did my first corporate gig in Michigan for a software company. I believe the message that we share is universal. Looking into the future, I'm actually going to be appearing at the Ontario Student Leadership Conference in November in Niagara Falls, which is the largest student-teacher leadership event in all of Canada. So it's quite an honor to be there. There's going to be 2,000 students in addition to 200 educators, so 2,200 people in total. I'm completely honored to be there, and I just think it's a milestone from where we've come to where we're going and what we can accomplish. And this is definitely something I want to do for the next 50 years of my life, inspiring people. We got books in the works, and this is a workbook that I've developed, which is the GLEN Principle Workbook, created by the GLEN Project, and it's available on my website at theglenproject.com. And we want to do more things like that and get books, talk to people, and make the GLEN Project expand and hopefully be its own entity one day.
And that's what I was going to ask you about. How can we find out more information? So it's theglenproject.com. Anywhere else we can go for information?
You can also go to Facebook and like us on the GLEN Project. That area there, we keep up to date with all of the events that Glen's speaking at and anything that's coming up for the GLEN Project. Just to add on to what Glen was saying, right now we're starting with mostly at-risk youth that Glen is speaking to, and we'd like to eventually branch out maybe to couples like us who work
Loving
together,
couples, I've noticed they are so
or,
loving.
you know, other audiences in that way. So future is bright and it's broad, so we're looking forward to that. Yeah.
It's so bright you got to wear shades.
And if you register at theglenproject.com, you can get the first section of my workbook for free as a free download.
Oh, how nice.
So if you go to theglenproject.com, register your email address, and you can get the first section of this book, I'll email it to you.
Okay.
You can check it out.
One more quick question. How did you two meet?
We met actually swing dancing at the Loop downtown. It was a bar downtown. And Glen came to the dance floor, at the edge of the dance floor, and I had already been dancing at that point for a little bit. And it was customary for most people who had been dancing for a bit to ask people who were new to come out and dance and learn together. So I did that, and you can finish.
She offered to teach me some dance moves. Yeah. And rule number one when you're a guy at a bar, never say no to a cute girl who's offering to show you how to dance.
Absolutely.
So we danced for a little bit. She taught me some moves, and I thanked her, and I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, my name is Glen." She said, "Yeah, I know who you are. You went to LaSalle High School." And I was like, "Oh my God, Suzanne." I didn't even recognize her. It had been like 7 or 8 years since we had graduated school, but we actually went to high school together. She was a year younger, and you never talk to the kids that are younger, right? It's just not cool.
And plus I was quite quiet in high school, and he was the lead guitarist for our rock band at school. So of course I knew who he was, right?
Right.
But that's just kind of how it worked. It's kind of funny 7 years later. Yeah.
So
here you are.
We met, we dated for 3 years, got married. We just celebrated 10 years being married in March, and we're expecting our first in October.
I see that. Congratulations. So. Well, thank you so much, Sue and Glen Bacarro, for joining us here on Plugged In.